Here we are at Hampi. Historically, this has been one of the greatest cities that ever happened in India. And many travelers, Portuguese, Italians, Chinese, and people from Arabia, many travelers have described this city as the greatest city of the time in the world. An Italian traveler comes down to say that it is far bigger and greater than Rome. The city covered over 60 miles of circumference. Among these beautiful rocks, which still remains and exudes an aura of fascination, an aura of magical presence, I cannot wonder why they would have chosen a place to set up a city like this in these rocks, because in terms of defenses and the magical presence of these rocks, the place is full of rocks. Probably we will show you some shots later. It's a rocky place, magnificent rocks. A whole lot of them have been broken to build structures and temples, but still the live rocks which are just sitting all over the place create such a magical atmosphere even today. This place has a historicity which goes back into 4,000 year BC. There are caves where even today there are images and carvings in the caves which are over 4,000 years old. And Agastya Muni himself seems to have come, we can say in many ways, because he stepped in here and did something significant here. From then on, there's been no looking for this place. There has been rise and fall, but it rose to its height, true heights, during 13th, 14th century, during the great Krishna-Devaraya era, when it was called as the Vijayanagar Empire. Somewhere in early 14th century, two brothers who are known as Hakka and Bukka, or Harihara and Bukka, who were governors in the Kakatiya Empire, learned the art of administration and stuff, and then they decided to come here and set up their own kingdom. This region was continuously in warfare between the Ballals of the Karnataka and the Brahmini Sultanate, where the northern Mughal emperors were trying to go south. In many ways, for 200 plus years, the Vijayanagar Empire became a bulwark to stop the flow of Islamic invasions into the south. That is one reason that the influence and dominance of Islam remained minimal in the south, and Vijayanagar Empire was mainly responsible for making that happen, because they organized their armies, and this is one empire, probably the only one in the country, which controlled both the coasts for a period of time. From coast to coast, from east coast to west coast, entirely they controlled the territory. So the sea trade was dominated by these people. Probably no other Indian king or emperor ever controlled the sea trade as Vijayanagar did. And they dominated the place, and they brought in European and Arabian goods into the country, and they traded extensively with Asia, Arabia and Europe. So, this whole empire existed in such a phenomenal way at that time, the glory of it, you still cannot miss it. One thing is, there is a story about how this happened. These two brothers came and they were captured by the Islamic Sultanate and taken to Delhi. And they converted themselves to Islam. For over 15 years, they lived as devout Muslims, because that was the only way for them to survive. Then they were brought back here to take charge of this place and rule this place as representatives of Delhi Sultanate. And then they met sage Vidyaranya. They formed the first step, the first foundation stone for the Vijayanagar Empire was laid like this. How they chose this place is interesting. This place called Anegundi, we are just little off that place right now. Here, when Vidyaranya and the two brothers came, they went hunting with their dogs, and there were 5 dogs and a hare. There was a hare. These 5 dogs, the king's dogs, attacked him. The strange thing that they saw was, normally a hare would be killed in moments if these 5 dogs go at him, but this particular hare stood up and fought the 5 dogs, and kind of the dogs backed off, looking at the fierceness of the hare. Then they decided that this is the place where they should establish their kingdom, and from that basis and from that kind of symbolism, that it doesn't matter who you are, if you're willing to stand up and make these things happen, you can fight back and build it. From that basis, they built this great empire which stretched across the southern peninsula, covering the whole of Deccan, coast to coast. Just the magical nature of this place, just walking through this place, all of you, someday in the next few years, you must make this trip to Hampi. It is one of the most magical places. There is a Tungabhadra river, today it is dammed. There's a Tunga and Bhadra. This was the main source of agricultural wealth for this nation, because Vijayanagar Empire was one of the few which learned how to irrigate land from the rivers. Between these 2 rivers is what Vijayanagar Empire is. But today these 2 rivers have merged, and there is a dam which is called as Tunga and Bhadra, Tungabhadra Dam, which irrigates large tracts of Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. These 2 states enjoy this water, and this is also a very rich mining place. This is very rich iron ore, and a whole lot of the place's wealth right now comes from mining. Gold mining is also close by, and there are many sages and saints who settled in this place in the past, many yogis. Raghavendra is one of the most celebrated sages of this area. Madhvacharya had a big influence in this area. Vidyaranya is a kind of a inspiration behind Vijayanagar kingdom. Above all, the engineering, the aesthetic. There is a place that Krishnadevaraya built. One thing is the Virupaksha temple, which is a fantastic place. Another is a temple with musical columns, just columns like this, much thinner. If you just do this, there are 7 columns which bring out 7 notes of the music. Just with your knuckles, if you do this, it brings out those things. Probably we will put in the archive those things, but these days they're not letting you knock it because too many people knocking it down. But actually, I have been there in the past. You can actually get 7 notes in 7 different columns just by tapping with your knuckles. Any amount of things we can say about this, unless you really drink in this place. This is not a place that you just… like a tourist you come and go. This is something that you have to really soak it in. It's something that grows upon you very slowly, and it's a very… you'll get stoned by this beauty. It's full of stones. They want to show you the shots of the temple. I hope it works. Krishnadevaraya was a great sponsor and admirer of art and music, particularly the classical dances. And one of the highlights of his life is that he was deeply in romantic engagement with a dancer who was called Nagala Devi, and he built a whole city for her. Initially, the present or the Vijayanagar was essentially called Nagalapuri. It was built for her. So this was his expression of romance, and you will see dancers carved all over the place, and everywhere you'll see images of dancers, because he was a great admirer of dance and music. And during his time, these art forms evolved in a big way. You see the rocks, the whole place is with with these kind of rocks everywhere. You see the Virupaksha temple tower behind us. This is something you must show on the camera, this rock and this temple here. So, you will see many niches like this, small temples built into the rocks. So, during his time, art and music developed in a big way, He was also… it is during his time because he went down south and he also ruled the Tamil Nadu, what is presently Tamil Nadu. The Siddha Vaidya evolved in a big way, and a great admirer of this traditional this thing, and they say that the battles that he fought, the injuries and things to handle the, the battle wounds of his soldiers, they developed thousands and thousands of Siddha and Ayurveda doctors who treated the injured soldiers, and the level of recovery that they had is supposed to be way beyond what other armies could afford, because he had developed thousands of doctors who could treat his soldiers, and there's a whole lot of information about how amputations were handled and how deep injuries and severed limbs were fixed and by the Siddha doctors. All these columns standing here for over 400 years or 500 years and speaking their own language. There's a whole lot of restoration going on. They say that this was the largest market on the planet at one time, running for over… the marketplace, one stretch, I think I can show you that. You see those two-storied columns there, can you see that? This is the marketplace, running for about 2.5 miles on both sides of the street, and two-storied marketplace running right across with about 80 to 100 feet wide road in the center. They said this was the largest marketplace on the planet for those days. Oh, definitely. It's not because our genes have become weak, we have become weak. Because we have become weak, the next generation will be weaker, unless they really strive. There is substantial scientific evidence to show within a single generation the genetic structure of a particular family or whatever can deteriorate. There is enough evidence to show that. Of course, it can always be revived, but will revival happen, is the question. When you're going to have an electric car to drive from your sitting room to bedroom, or you drive your bed wherever you go to the office, it may happen. Maybe you drive in your bed to your office and work there and sleep there, and because everything is touch of button, or touching buttons also will go away. Probably if you verbally say it, everything will get typed and all the work gets done. And you don't have to use either your body or your brains in any great length. Definitely in a single generation we can fall dramatically. I think it's happening at an alarming rate. If you look at the children today, simple things that all kids would be capable of when we were growing up, today is like circus for a whole lot of children. Only very athletic ones can do it. I was speaking to a group of very elite group in Chennai. Today, these young couples and others who are very well-to-do and in industry and thing, they all pride themselves that they are all doing fitness, they're walking on the treadmill, some of them are cycling, and of course all the ladies wearing zero size whatever stuff. They think they're fit. So I asked them a simple question, suppose all you guys are walking on the street, if a tiger came or a flood came or something happened, how many of you can just climb this tree and save your life? How many of you can do this? Only the menial laborers. Those who are doing laborer's job on the street, somebody who's building the road or somebody who's digging a hole somewhere, only that guy will save himself, none of you will be able to climb a tree. They said, yes. Then that means what? This is not fitness, you can only walk on treadmill and wear zero size by eating only salads. If you eat anything more, you'll have indigestion. This is not fitness. You think you're fit if you look trim and fit into a particular kind of thing. No, the very sinuses of life within you have become weak. I know this very well because I find it's almost impossible to initiate, I would say, Among the people that I meet, there may be people in rural areas who are capable of this, but among the people who come to us, 90% of the people are unfit for any kind of strong Kriya Yoga, because they don't have the body to do it. They may have the wish to do it, but they don't have the body to do it. Their fundamental physical structure, they may look okay, they may look reasonably fit, they can walk, they can do things, but they're not fundamentally strong within themselves. The basic structure is not very strong. That weakening is happening dramatically, and as these technologies make you do less and less, both in body and brain, I think it's a very serious affair, very, very serious affair. It is the survival. Probably that is how we will decimate ourselves, not by bombs or fire or ice or whatever. Probably we just kind of peter out, that we won't have the strength to exist by ourselves. And I don't know. Right now I know a whole lot of people beyond 80, 85 are on kind of different types of life support. This need for life support, the age at which life support is needed, I'm just thinking, I don't have all the facts on this, but I'm thinking in 50 years' time, if we continue like this, the age at which human beings need life support may come down dramatically by 10, 15 years than what it is right now. And that is serious weakening of human structure. And the next generation that generation reproduces will definitely inherit that. And the genetic structure, if it weakens over a period of time, it's definitely of concern. So one of the things that we need to do, the reason when we set up the yoga center in America, we set up a 1,300-acre ashram. Everybody said, "This is crazy, Sadhguru, we must buy 25 acres next to Atlanta and do the ashram." I said, the purpose of the ashram is not just to have a center and meditate and whatever, it's to regenerate life. I'm not just saying one ashram is going to save this, but it is needed in many, many places. This needs to happen, that we have to go back to the land, we have to live with the five elements, we have to be exposed to the earth, we have to be exposed to the sky, to the rain. These things need to happen without being in communication with all the five elements, without being in communion with all the forces of life. All the forces of life are not just within your body, it's just all over the place. Without rapport with it, without confronting it, without every day being in touch with it, life doesn't happen strong. We need to live strong. That is the purpose of yoga, not just being frail and eating vegetables and closing your eyes, that's not just that. We must understand the need for violence is essentially fear. The more fearful you are, the more the tendency for you to become violent. You will see people who are fearful, first thing is they'll get verbally violent. If they find that whoever is in front of them is physically of less capability, they will also become physically violent. Where there is no fear, the need for violence will come down dramatically. So, why is the fear? What is the fear about? Essentially, the basis of fear is just this. In this a vast expanse of creation, this cosmic space, if you are identified yourself as a little body, this small little person in this vast cosmos, fear is natural. Most people are living in ignorance and trying to avoid fear, but if you really look at it, you are in the middle of nowhere. Maybe you're thinking, I'm in Los Angeles or New York, but actually, in this cosmos, you're in the middle of nowhere, your GPS cannot tell you where you are. If you really look at it, this tiny piece of life If you're identified only with your biological self, this tiny piece of life should shiver in terror. One way of avoiding this is not look at all those things, think you are the greatest nonsense on the planet and go on. That'll work for some time, and when life and death gives you a taste of it, then fear will come anyway. But transcending fear, what it means is, if you bring your life in such a way, if you allow your life to happen in a certain way to you, if your experience of life transcends the boundaries of your physicality, if you handle your body in such a way that your body is as competent as it can be in the physical world, and your inner experience is beyond this physicality of who you are, you will see fear will become equanimous. One thing is you're physically competent, which makes you physically efficient and competent to handle the physical world. One who is physically fit walks into physical situations without much fear simply because of physical competence. This must be done right from very young age. Half the children going to school, you see, they're turning like pumpkins, drinking corn syrup So, when you become like a pumpkin as a child, then Halloween works for you, everything is fearful. If you're fit and competent and you're ready to fight the dragons then your physical self is competent. Because of that, a whole lot of fear is taken care of. And the other dimension is, your inner experience has transcended your physicality, then there is no fear at all. Now, you have transcended violence on both levels because physical is always under threat, we need to understand this. Physical is not a permanent fixture, physical is under threat. When we say we are mortal, what it means is, physicality is under threat always, that's the nature of physicality. Physicality is not an indestructible process, physicality is a fragile process. We can make it strong, but it's still a fragile process. So if these two dimensions are handled, that physical competence of a certain caliber and an inner experience which is beyond physicality, fear is handled. If fear is handled, transcending violence naturally happens. This is what Kalari is trying to do, a discipline which brings an enormous physical competence. At the same time, there is a meditative dimension to it, which is striving to bring that experience beyond physicality. It is not about fighting somebody, it is about bringing yourself to the ultimate possibility that you can bring your body and mind to, and then work on your spiritual process to transcend these two things. Transcendence is not an avoidance, this must be understood. Transcendence means you're building something as a solid footstep over which you can stand or you can use to step over, because the fear is essentially because of fragility of physicality. And because of this fear, the need for violence. Violence means just this. When my physicality is threatened, I choose to destroy your physicality. That's all violence is. So if my physicality is not threatened, the need for destroying your physicality has considerably gone down. There may be other reasons, but still considerably gone down within me. If there is no threat to my physicality, the need to destroy your physicality or harm your physicality has gone down dramatically within myself. That is one level, and another level is to have an experience beyond my own physicality, that even if my physicality is threatened, the need to destroy the physical nature of the other has gone down because my experience of life is beyond my physical nature. I know this manifesting what you want while you're fulfilling your dreams, these have taken on a big, a very a dimension or a size that it should not. People setting their goals of life at the 18, 20, that I want to become this or that. I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm not saying it's not necessary, it is to some extent. But I see particularly in the West, essentially in America, this is something I would like to change. Yes, by maintaining a certain mental focus, you can achieve a few things, but we have to redefine what is achievement. Just because you got what you wanted, that does not mean you have achieved something in your life. This is a very mediocre way of curing human nature. What few material things that you want, either in terms of profession, relationships, or as you said, you added community projects, that is also one kind of career. So right now, this little auto rickshaw, which is supposed to take 3 people in it, carrying 10 people, somehow he zigzags up this hill and makes it to the top, it's an achievement. He switched off his engine, probably sitting for a chai. So it's an achievement. I'm saying it is not an achievement. Yes, socially it is relevant. Personally, economic and other benefits may be there. Yes, few things have to be done like that, I'm not questioning that. But if you're looking at… if you're calling this a vision, sorry, I wouldn't call this a vision. This is a petty desire which could have been done in so many ways. These things have become big in people's minds because they have set their goals. Like I've always told you in the very beginning of the… usually, probably in the very introduction of the inner engineering program, we talk about this. In yoga, we say if you have one eye set on the goal, you have only one eye to find your way. A one-eyed man thinks he has done a great thing because he found his way home. Somebody who can see clearly, he doesn't think much of finding his home because it's the simplest thing that you can do. So I'm saying without enhancing the human being, we set some petty goals, like this little engine which doesn't have the power to go up this hill. Now it sets up this goal and it thinks it's done a great thing reaching there. But if it built itself into a more powerful engine, without effort, it would be there. This is where human focus should be. Human focus should not be about what should I become, what should I have. Having and becoming should not be your goal. It should be about how can I enhance this life. When I say life, I'm not talking about your profession, your career, your relationships, your community projects, no, I'm talking about this life. How to make this from what it is to a much upgraded or high-powered life. Just do that. If you do that, then this will do whatever it has to do. This is what yoga is about. Don't worry about what you should have, what you should do. Just make this into a powerful engine, it will climb any hill. So this should be your vision, not about, I want to get this kind of job, I want to earn so many $1,000, I want to marry this pretty girl in the neighborhood No, just grow this into a size and a potential beyond what it is right now, all these things will happen. All these things will happen more than you ever imagined. And above all, the quality of your life will not be determined by the arrangements of your life. The quality of your life will be determined by what's throbbing here, and that's how life should be. Because it's life, not the arrangements of life. And life happens within. What you arrange is of social consequence, not of any existential or life consequence. So, do not call petty desires as vision. I want to buy a new model car, and it happened. It'll anyway happen because they're giving you 0% interest-free loan and they'll collect it back from you in 10 years' time. Anybody can buy any damn car, it doesn't mean anything. But sitting in that car, what are you going to do? Only if your neighbors look at you and envy you, you feel good. If all of them have bigger cars, you anyway feel like nonsense once again. That's all it is. But if this human being is enhanced, whether you sit in the city or you sit among these rocks, you sit in the mountain alone by yourself, wherever you sit, it's fantastic. And that's what you should envision, not petty things.
For more videos, please subscribe. Press bell icon and never miss an update.